At this point, let's just widen the discussion a bit and look at an article from the Washington Post that say that South Africa is on a list of 193 countries that the US is keeping an eye on. Would either of you be able to give us an indication of why?
193. How many countries are there?
A little over 200.
Yeah. So who are they not?
Themselves, yeah. Maybe
island.
Switzerland, what are the Swiss doing?
Switzerland's critical. I think most governments do this. We need to accept it. It's not just the US. The US has been caught red-handed, but most governments do it. They spy on each other. They survey. They have surveillance programs on each other. It happens all the time. I think the days of James Bond are long gone, where you would have individuals, meeting at bars or at corners and sharing national security information. They're long gone. They have systems. They have IT systems now which run very complicated algorithms to collect information from each other. It happens all the time. I'm not surprised.
Right.
So I think that it does speak to a massive problem, because this is, again, something that has come up in the last year. At the center of this debate around privacy is that there is often a general acceptance that surveillance is in some cases needed. For instance, if you want to catch a terrorist before he blows up lots of civilians, we would say, yes, we would be happy. I think, a large number of people would be happy for that person's privacy to be invaded so he can be caught before he can do it. But what happens is a system gets designed, a massive invasive system gets designed on the kind of general agreement that we're only going to use it for the really bad guys. But once we've designed it turns out that we can start tapping Angela Merkel's cell phone.
Right.
We can start surveilling diplomats. We can start surveilling unions that we don't agree with. We can start surveilling opposition that we don't agree with in countries where we want to favor one political side. And that's the problem, is that it's designed on a general agreement that will only be used for a certain purpose. But once you design that system, it becomes very vulnerable to abuse. And I think that, on one hand, it may be true that governments do this. I think we can agree that it's not that the US is the bad guy. The US is the bad guy that got caught.
Yeah.
And the US also just happens to be the big guy.
Yeah, and has the funding for the best. It can be the best bad guy there is. But now that the public knows about these things, and certainly you see there's a lot of pressure in the US for those systems to change and for the rules around those systems to change. Of course, they will start to fall into abuse again. But it's, I think these kinds of abuses are like mold. They only happen where there's no light. They only happen in the dark. And as soon as you shine a light, it all starts to die and it encroaches to the shadows over there. And once you go away, it will start to creep back. And so that's why there's a kind of vigilance is needed, and constant vigilance.
Yeah. And monitoring and oversight is important for the exact reason. And the biggest concern that I have is that the oversight mechanisms and systems are simply not working. Whether it's the US, whether it's South Africa, the United Kingdom, those oversight mechanisms, I'm talking about legislative bodies and structures, like committees in parliament who are supposed to be putting an eye on this thing, they're just simply incapable of doing so. Maria's done excellent work on looking at our Standing Committee on Intelligence. The fact that they don't publish any report, well, until recently, until Mario forced them to, they were not publishing any of their reports regarding the investigations they've done, regarding oversight processes that they've conducted over agencies such as NIA or South African Crime Intelligence or State Security. They don't. So how do we know that the system is working? We simply don't know, because the watchdogs are not capable of monitoring the system. And again, technology has leapfrogged the entire legal framework on these things. While committees can say, we will summon someone to come and talk to us, that person doesn't make decisions anymore. It's the algorithms, it's the system that Mario is talking about that has been established to collect this data, and the system is collecting this data without any kind of monitoring and oversight. That's the big problem.
I think, just to add to that, Mukulani is talking about oversight, which is something that ODAC is kind of always emphasizes the need. Basically, for transparency is the best. What do they say? Sunshine is the best disinfectant.
Yeah.
I mean, you can imagine several different kinds of public oversight from any system, really, not just surveillance, but basically any state practice or policies. That there's legislative oversight, which is laws that set the rules. There's parliamentary oversight, so the kind of the oversight committees and whatever. And then there's public oversight. And that's active citizens informing themselves and keeping a kind of watchdog, and that's also the media as well, of course.
Yeah.
And one of the problems is that, I mean, I think that we've got big problems in South Africa and globally with legislative oversight. The rules are broken and aren't really working right now. As Mukulani says, the parliamentary oversight isn't really working either. The people who are meant to be watching the watchdogs have all fallen asleep on the job. And the problem is that the public oversight is impossible because there isn't transparency in the system. We don't have enough information to hold people to account on these questions. Yeah. And this is, it's in a situation like that where abuses happen, where the rules get broken, and where rights get infringed, basically.